Remarks or visitors?
None.
Item 3, discuss and review Section 3 policy information for the city's Texas CDBG contract CDV 23-0305, mini street water and sewer improvements.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is for the discussion and review of Section 3 policy for our CDBG grant for the mini street. This year received a $500,000 grant, and then we have Megan with Public Management if you have any questions. Show that the city is in compliance with federal civil rights and employment opportunities. So we have to show job vacancies, labor standard hours, like I said, to be in compliance with TDA.
Let's just give us a quick background on what the project is.
This is for Mini Street. I'll be honest, the public works side, I'm not too familiar with. Jennifer, do you remember which?
So it's a bar and street. Is it consistent?
This one is just
Or
Mini.
this one is just me? So it's just many streets. The water and the street. This is one of the streets.
So are you saying that the underground utilities over on Main Street is bad?
Yes, sir.
The sewage and the water?
Yes, sir. So it's just moving forward, changing out the age. So that was gonna be in that big CIP that we finished, and we took it out.
So this grant will replace the sewage and the water from one end of Main to the other end of Main?
I do believe so.
Kevin, why don't you have Megan come up and just kind of cover real quickly what tonight's item is? Because tonight, really, this isn't an application for a grant or any action regarding the grant. That all we're doing tonight is reviewing the Section 3 requirements, which are a federal requirement with regard to it. So it really, there's no action required by council tonight. We just had to review a certain component to make sure that we were compliant with it. And so I just wanted to be clear with that. Megan, why don't you give it kind of an overview?
One quick question.
Yeah.
We do already have the grant?
Yes, yeah, this is already, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's under design already. So as part of TDA's grant compliance, it is required that this specific presentation be given to council before we award a construction contract. So we're getting close. We're in the design phase. We've got our environmental completed already. So I wanted to just go ahead and get this in front of you guys so you're aware. Really all Section 3 is the city's best attempt to promote employment for low to moderate income folks, specifically in the project area. So say we contract with a construction contractor and they have someone leave their crew, we would ask that they try to hire locally from a low income employee. That's really all Section 3 is. It's a best efforts, and I'll be submitting Section 3 reports on behalf of you guys throughout the grant, and then a final Section 3 closeout document at the end as well. So really, we will also ask the city to there's a new requirement that even city employees should document kind of how much time they're spending. I don't expect that really any city employee is a Section 3 employee, but so say if Heaven spends an hour a day on the grant for a week, then hey, that's 5 hours a week, and we'll document that as well. But that's really it. The presentation includes a map of your Section 3 area as well. So that would be a 1 mile radius of the project location. So we'd really be trying to employ, to the best of our ability, anyone within that area that meets the LMI requirements. Like I said, this is a best effort, so if your contractor is already fully staffed, doesn't need to hire anyone, then that's okay as well. We will, when we go to bid, do our best to invite Section 3 businesses to bid on the project, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, that kind of thing. So that's really all Section 3 requires of you.
So how do you market that specifically to those folks that are low income? I think right now we put it in the paper whenever we have a bid or whenever there's jobs that are open on the jobs board potentially, but how do you specifically reach out?
We have a list of the job boards in the area that work with small Section 3 businesses. So when the project goes out to bid, I'll ask the engineer to also send direct solicitation to those job boards, have the bid posted on their sites. That way we're doing our best to try to elicit those types of bids from contractors.
And the city has a job board too.
Okay.
Maybe I
Posted there as well.
may or may not be aware of it.
So what you're saying is that the city will not go out for bids, but your company will go out for bids?
No, the city is going out for bids through Blile Engineering, is putting together the bid book and everything, and I'm working closely with them.
Oh, okay.
as well.
I thought I heard you said it when you go out for bids there, whatever.
When we, as a team, go out for bids, yeah, I'll make sure that the engineer sends those direct solicitations as well.
Is this affected in any way by the government closure?
Not right now. As of right now, this grant has been contracted already, so we're good to move forward. Any future grants, that's up for debate, but right now you guys have this grant and also a GLO grant that are set in stone. Any other questions?
You can make it.
All right,
Thank you.
well, thank y'all.
Mayor, I was going to suggest that we do item number 5 next.
Okay.
It'll be a quick one, and then then we can move on to number 4.
All right. Item 5, discussion on the council meetings that fall on November 24th and December 22nd, which occur during holiday weeks.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, the city secretary and I were just kind of looking at the calendar and preparing for the closeout of this calendar year, and noticed that your second meeting in November is the week of Thanksgiving, which may or may not be an issue. And then the second meeting in December is the day before Christmas Eve. So we thought you may or may not want to cancel those meetings, just the second meeting in each month. We've been talking to staff, making sure they get things ready and prepared in case you choose to cancel one or both of those. But we thought we'd have the conversation tonight. And if you're ready to tell us tonight, yes, we want just one in November and December, we will move forward accordingly. Or if you want to have a follow-up discussion on November 10th, we can certainly do that as well. But just wanted to kind of get it on everyone's radar. And if you all don't want to meet in the weeks of those holidays, we certainly understand that and can make arrangements to get everything on the one agenda of each of those months.
I think it's been common practice for.
I mean, I don't see a big problem the week of Thanksgiving, being Thanksgiving is Thursday and Monday.
Right. Just
But
throwing it out there.
Christmas Eve, the Monday before Christmas Eve, I know people are trying to. I have no problem either way, but
Yeah, and if we have to call a special emergency
Right.
meeting for some ungodly reason, we can always do that. So,
Right now, there's no items on either of those meetings. The staff has already
Yeah.
did the first
Yeah.
first one in each month, so.
I'm fine with it. Canceling both.
Cancel both of those?
Yeah, we'll give Connie the nights off.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
And as you said, if something urgent comes up, we'll
Yeah.
communicate and we'll get something scheduled.
Back to item 4, discussion on the enterprise fleet lease exchange program to include new options to consider about moving away from our current partnership to bring vehicle ownership in-house.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, Jay Chappelle and some other staff members have been working on our fleet exchange. I was going to kind of set the stage and give some background. As you all know from our one-on-one meetings and just some conversations that we've had earlier this year, we've been really looking closely at the enterprise lease, make sure that it makes sense for us as a city, make sure it's doing what we expected. And the reality is, I think what we've come to, what I think we're discovering as staff and wanted to make you all aware of is, as it appears to us, the more you peel back the layers of that onion, the stronger the smell gets. And so it just seems like maybe this isn't all that it was sold to us as, with regard to saving us money, keeping us in newer vehicles. It just doesn't seem like the reality is there with the maintenance getting done like we expected, or being taken care of. And the more we look at the dollars and cents of it, it just seems like maybe we should at least have tonight's discussion, make sure everyone is on the same page, and kind of get some guidance from you all before we move forward. And so what Jay is going to show you tonight is basically three different options, but the reason for that is so that we can look at the impact it would have of keeping with the enterprise program that we've been on for a few years, or transitioning away. And we obviously can't buy 60 vehicles in 1 year. We're not talking about transitioning away from it wholesale this year. But if we wanted to start buying vehicles this year and moving as we move forward, not adding new vehicles to the lease program and phasing them out over the course of the next 5 or 6 years, we could do that. Or we can go into it a little bit more cautiously, and dip our toe into it, so to speak, and maybe split the middle and do some vehicles in the lease program this year and a few out of the general fund. And so looking at the options, really just wanted to take a big picture look at, is this program doing what we all believe it should for us? And as we now have a maintenance services division that's going to start really overseeing things from a maintenance perspective, making sure we're doing the PM on schedule for our vehicles, taking care of those kind of things, kind of taking ownership and responsibility for them. Maybe we're at a point where we can, again, start that migration over. And again, we're not talking about dumping 60 vehicles on one mechanic that we have on staff all overnight. If we did start this process, even at the most aggressive that we're talking about, it would be maybe 10 or 12 vehicles this year that would, again, be less than a year old. They would be brand new vehicles. All they should need, hopefully, is oil changes. And if it's something more than that, should be covered by a warranty. So again, we're not talking about overburdening, a small staff in that maintenance services department, but we really wanted to start taking a look at it. We already, as we've talked about during the budget process, kind of made this decision for police fleet vehicles, the actual police patrol vehicles, marked patrol vehicles. Enterprise was upfront with us that they don't do anything on the maintenance on those. The cost is still borne by us, so there really was no savings from a maintenance perspective. They were not replacing them on the schedule that they initially wanted to on the lease because of the upfitting costs that it costs us. So really there's no savings. If we're flipping a vehicle every 3 or 4 years and having to pay $50,000, $60,000 to upfit a new vehicle, we're really not we're not able to average that upfitting cost over the lifespan of a vehicle. And so we've already made that decision. And in this year's budget that you approved, we did, as you may recall, 3 emergency vehicles were already in the general fund budget. But we also have the lease program in enterprise, and they brought to us a list of 15 or so vehicles that they wanted to replace and bring in more lease vehicles. And when we really started looking at that, we just felt like as a staff, we should come and have this discussion tonight and see if you all are on the same mindset that we are, that, hey, maybe we need to start migrating over and owning these vehicles and maintaining them ourselves. And obviously we may not be comfortable doing that all at one time. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background, Enterprise The vehicles that are in the enterprise lease program, they will take in, they will sell off at auction, and any equity that belongs in that vehicle, whatever they sell it for, net of whatever we owed on the lease, if there was any money owed on the lease, sometimes there's not, we get that money back. And that usually, if we just are staying in their program, they just put that money towards our lease payments of the vehicles that we're leasing going forward. So using their numbers, again, I think all of us, including some outside sources that we've consulted with, feel like they might be overly aggressive on what they think they're going to get for those vehicles in auction. They are averaging upwards of $20,000 per vehicle. In the 33 years that I've been in city government, I've never seen a city fleet vehicle auctioned off for more than $20,000. Nor has a good friend that's been around the last couple of weeks, helping us do some looking at this, that retired as the maintenance services director in Pasadena, that he's done it for a long time. And that's just more than we ever get now. Enterprise may get more than that. They have a little bit more of an audience, but again, they will not guarantee how much they're going to get. They just give us estimates and what they think our lease payments are going to be if we realize that money coming back from the auctions. And so it just leaves us a little uncomfortable moving forward with this number of vehicles and jumping in there expecting we're going to get, $300,000 plus for the vehicles that they're going to sell on our behalf, when they will not give us any kind of a guarantee. And so we just kind of felt like we needed to have this conversation. And if we did decide to move forward with buying some, our thought is we might allocate some funding out of the fund balance, with the expectation is that whatever enterprise sells them for, when it comes back to us, then that would come back to us as a check, and we would immediately put that back into our fund balance. It's not going to be 100%. We're not going to get 100% of the cost of the vehicles, of brand new vehicles. But if it's, 40 or 50% of it, maybe, we take $500,000 out and maybe it nets out to only $250,000, depending on how many vehicles we decide to do and ourselves, on our own, as opposed to moving over. And so what Jay's going to talk about is kind of the philosophy of trying to start with the oldest vehicles, anything 2017 or older, start with getting rid of those first, get ourselves brought up to that, and then kind of make a decision on, do we just continue with the lease program? Do you want to just start buying them ourselves, or maybe meet somewhere in the middle and do half and half or something along those lines? So I've set the stage. You have any questions before I let Jay talk? I see a couple looking at me like they might have questions.
Yeah, so I remember when we went to Enterprise, and we did it, in my recollection, it was too expensive to have somebody to just be fixing the cars. And maybe one of them quit or retired, and then we didn't have anybody to service them. So I'm just curious from council, any recollection of why we owned our own cars, we maintained our own cars, but we went away from that for a reason that was legitimate at the time. Just curious if anybody remembers what that reason was, so that we don't make the same mistake as we go back.
Sure.
Well, I remember too, at one time the availability of where you would buy them from, like either a local dealer or a fleet type dealer like they have in Houston, those were either not responding or
Well, plus there
we
was
weren't
a
getting
period of time,
good offers on
there
it.
were no vehicles available. And maybe for purchase, but through Enterprise being as big as they were, they could furnish vehicles for us. If we purchase our own, will we be keeping them possibly longer than what we would if it was in a lease deal with Enterprise?
I think the idea is you keep a vehicle till it's reasonable, useful life. And so in my experience, most of the time in public safety, the emergency response vehicles, usually that's somewhere in the 6, 7, 8 years, and somewhere around 75, 80,000 miles. white fleet, public works vehicles, sometimes you can get maybe 8 years, sometimes up to 9 or 10 years, and up to around 115,000 miles. You just try to find that balance point where you're not spending more than it would cost you to replace it, or the maintenance
Okay,
cost
but
to get.
was the lease
get
with
over something.
Enterprise like a 3-year lease?
4 or 5. They will do a 48 or a 60-month lease, is what they would like to propose to us. So,
The mechanic thing was, I do remember that. I think we were going through some personnel issues at the time. And then I think overall, at least it was told to us that the cost was overall better to do a lease. But as far as how deep that research went,
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Okay, thank you.
Out of the 60 vehicles that you said the city owned, lease, do we own any of those out of the 60 or are
Yes.
they all leased?
Yeah, if you
some
look
of
at
them are
option,
done with their lease.
yeah, if you look at option 1 on that first sheet, you'll notice in the third column there, it's enterprise vehicle. The ones that are listed as not enterprise are technically all vehicles that the city owns.
Oh, we talking about this
Outright.
figure?
Yep.
Page 1?
On that option 1 page, you'll see on the third column there, enterprise vehicle, where it says enterprise fleet versus not enterprise.
Okay,
The ones that are marked as not enterprise are actually owned by the city.
okay.
So, and for the most part, those vehicles, with the exception, I think, of that 2008 F-350, are being used. That 2008 F-350, Jen, Jose, that's just parked at the shop, right? Yeah. But all the rest of those vehicles are currently in use. So we already own some vehicles as is. There is a 2011 Expedition that's on there that shows not enterprise. It is listed in the enterprise system. So when you go to the very last sheet, you'll see it on there as one they want to trade in, but it's not technically theirs. It's the police chief's vehicle. But for some reason they listed in there because they do monitor that vehicle under their enterprise system. If you pay like $8 a month for them to keep an eye on how many miles we put on it, but other than that, it's not actually part of their lease program. But the idea we came up with is looking at our oldest vehicles first. You can tell we started this in 2017. We actually have 3 vehicles that are from 2017, which that was 8 years ago. Like you said, 4 to 5 years, or 4 to 48 months to 60 months is their timeline. These are well out of that timeline, but they're still in use. The list here on option 3 is what Enterprise proposed to us. These are the vehicles they said, hey, if you trade these vehicles in and we give you new vehicles, we can actually bring some of your monthly payments down. But you can see on here, there's only one of those 2017s listed. So we would still be holding on with 2 of the oldest vehicles in our fleet if we did their suggestion. And I think the goal that they put up here, and I just inherited this a few weeks ago, so I'm going to lean on Jen and Mike to kind of help me out here. The goal that they had here was to try to bring down our overall monthly payments, like Robert said, by utilizing the equity we already have in these vehicles, right? And spreading it. You can see on the far right-hand column, there's 2 that are in red, which means that we are actually underwater on those 2 trucks, but that's because we bought them during COVID when everything was way too expensive. So we're sitting on 2 vehicles, and if you look at the column there for monthly payments, right now we're paying, $800 a month for an F-150, 2024 F-150, and $1,000 for a 23 Ram, compared to all the other vehicles, which are in the, $400 to $600 range, right? So that's kind of what they're trying to help us with, is to bring down that monthly payment on those 2 vehicles, while also issuing us new vehicles across the board for roughly newer vehicles that have very low mileage on them, in our opinion. So we came up with 2 general options to start with. The first one would be basically taking all the older vehicles that we have, all the oldest vehicles we have in our fleet, those that we own that range from 2008. If you look at option 1, Lupe, from 2008 all the way up to 2017, those are the oldest vehicles we have in our fleet. Go back one more screen. Yeah. So, backwards. You're on option 2. There you go. Oh,
Yeah, he was on option
there you go. Well, he was on the buyout, the ones that we were talking about purchasing.
Oh, there's 2 options.
Yeah, option 1 has two pages, sorry. Go to page 1 of option 1. Yeah, okay. So these are all the vehicles we currently have that are both in our fleet that we own, as well as enterprise vehicles. So we calculated based on what enterprise gave us for the values on within the enterprise fleet system. We also went out and did some research to find out what the vehicles that we own, what they would auction off as a general number we could possibly get. We came up with about 105,000 we could probably make, pull in revenue wise on those vehicles if we trade them into enterprise, get our buyout from those vehicles, as well as auction off whatever we do own. That would leave us about 105,000 we could possibly get within the next 6 months or so once we go to auction. And then the first option would be replacing all of these older vehicles that are currently in use with newer vehicles that we would purchase outright. If you go to the second screen, option 1, this is a list of those vehicles and how they tie into each division of the fleet that we have. So our estimated total cost for all those vehicles came out to about 515 grand minus the 105-ish. Would leave us around 400 to 410,000 in cost if we wanted to replace these specific 11 vehicles immediately. This would take 3 vehicles completely out of the fleet, the enterprise fleet, and the plan that I was going to put in for the next follow-up would be a 5-year plan on how we can phase out all of the enterprise vehicles based on oldest first or highest necessity first.
Is there any benefit for the city financial wise? I know when you're in business, leasing can look favorable. You can turn over a vehicle quicker, less payments, and the lease payment is a total deduction. To where if you buy it outright, you depreciate it.
That's a great question.
So is there, I mean, that would be the thing I would ask versus, is there any hidden benefit of us leasing versus purchasing?
We can definitely look into that, depreciation versus.
Yeah, the reality, Councilman, is that the reason businesses depreciate their assets is for the tax benefit.
Exactly.
We don't pay taxes.
Well, that's
We
what,
collect
but I was trying to make sure
So
that in our bond rating or whatever, if it makes a difference.
there's really not that kind of a benefits. The benefit to some cities, why, in what I believe some cities, the reason they like going to the lease program, particularly for their public works, their white fleet, is it gets them in new vehicles every 3, 4, or 5 years, depending on their lease terms. And they like that they're driving around in newer looking vehicles. It has a beautification element to it. I don't know that we have that same need here as, an affluent community that wants their.
I see what you're talking, and there used to be drastic model changes about every 3 years. Well, now you can look at a 2013 versus almost a 2020, and there's hardly any difference.
Right.
In looking at like it is a newer vehicle. I noticed, I mean, I don't know what their particular deal, but NISD leased all their buses for a while. That was the thing. And then all of a sudden, no, that's not such a good benefit for us. And they went out and purchased and owned all their own buses. Now they pay a company to manage them, but the school owns the buses. They don't lease them anymore.
So this option would be kind of, I guess you call it a hybrid to start with, where we would still have some with enterprise or
yes,
with it?
the large majority would be still enterprise managed vehicles. We are talking about starting with the oldest first.
Yeah.
So
And that's
only,
why I
there's
think
only a
it'd be a
handful
good
of 2000.
transition, not all of them at one time.
And that's really what we want to do is each year look at the oldest models first and feather it in, right? The goal, we have 60 something vehicles right now. Over the next, 5 years, the goal would be to completely be off of enterprise by doing, 10 to 12 each year and getting to that point.
How has the enterprise program and the fleet program, as far as the city staff, how has it been managed in the past?
I don't know that we see evidence that it has.
Okay, that's kind of, I guess, why we're,
I think so. Jen might kind of inherited it from previous management, so,
So, and just to kind of add on to that, you all went to the enterprise lease program, we went to the enterprise lease program in 2017. We still have the 2017s that were leased in 2017. I don't know that we've turned any vehicles back into enterprise.
yeah, we've had a few, yeah. But they are newer. They're not.
Okay. Okay.
From what I'm looking at here, we own like what, 21 vehicles and the rest of them is lease.
No. So we own at first page on option 1, anything that says not enterprise
Right.
would be ours. This second option 1 is the suggested vehicles we would want to buy in replacement for the first page on option 1. So I didn't mean to confuse that, but if you're looking at the option 1, that is the list of
First and
vehicles.
second
Yeah,
page.
the first page.
Okay, first.
Anything that's 2008 all the way up to 2017, anything that says not enterprise on this page is ours.
Okay.
That second page is just a projection of vehicles we would want to replace with these. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Now,
confuse
on
that.
that first page, option 1.
Yep.
Everything that's not enterprise, is all those vehicles running good? I mean, is anything
They
wrong
all,
with them?
yeah, they all work. We don't have currently, except for,
The 2008? Okay, I see it's not being replaced.
yeah.
We already replaced with the auction.
Okay.
any reason that one wasn't auctioned off before, or it just kind of got?
I think we just haven't gotten to those vehicles. I know that there's some dump trucks that we're looking at. There's some other stuff at the facility that we'll be adding to the chief's list of auction vehicles, on top of what's on here as well, if we move down this path.
And Enterprise was the one handling auctioning them, or was it us?
No, so anything that we own, we handle auction here.
Right.
What they would handle, once we turn it into enterprise, we no longer see that vehicle. We don't know what they sell it for. We don't have any record of, they just tell us we'll take care of it, give us an estimated number and let us know how much our monthly payment's gonna be, so. That's why Robert was kind of saying, this number, if you look at the option 3, sticking with it, in the current market value, that second to last column is what they're telling us these vehicles are worth. And like Robert said, some of them are,
Yeah.
$25,000, $30,000, $40,000 trucks still. Well, then I would love them for just write us a check for that full amount and you can have all those vehicles and we'll call it a day, but they won't, that's not a card they're going to play. So.
Well, and I mean, the whole purpose, like we said, usually lease is you turn over the cars every 4 or 5 years. But I mean, like that first one there, okay, it's 11 years old. The others are 8 years old. And that's kind of unusual for a lease to go that long. I mean, did we renew the lease or just keep paying on it?
So that first one is that F-250. So it's being monitored. It's a false trigger. It shouldn't be in their system. It's the same as the 2011 that I updated properly, that Expedition. It was also saying enterprise fleet, but it's just being monitored in their system. It's actually not one of their
Oh.
vehicles. Because we started in 2017, we wouldn't have gotten it.
But even those 17s, of course,
They're
they're
still-
8 years old.
Yeah, exactly. We're well past the timeline on those.
We have one that's pretty good. I mean, it's good for when something is in the shop, or that's kind of how we use it.
But you look at that, we're still paying a lease payment on those. And if we own it, I mean, as long as you have that deal, you're gonna be paying a lease. It's never gonna be yours.
Sure. And that value is still, I mean, they're saying the estimated value is what, 13.1 for that 2017?
Yeah, 13.1.
Yeah.
But that's.
And on that one, and the.
$20 maintenance fee? Yeah.
So,
But once again, like you said, it's not ours, right? Should we want to do something with it, it just goes back to enterprise and they get whatever they want with it, so.
Jay, can you explain that maintenance fee? Like, once we send them out to get a maintenance to,
So if you
They
look at the
reimburse
last, at the little booklet, Susie, do they have that? Yeah, so at the very end of that, I added the maintenance quote that they provided us. And you can look at that and see what the
which
details.
page is that?
It's not in the big one, it's in the little sheet that,
This one.
yeah, that one, yeah. Sorry, I put the big ones together today because I needed readers to look at it
You
myself,
look
so.
at here.
So there's a maintenance quote that's in there and you can
Maintenance
see,
expense, the last page.
you can essentially see how they break it down on how many oil changes you're allowed to have, how many, tire rotations, all those things. The 2017s are well out of that maintenance timeline. It's my understanding, do they still reimburse on that or do we just repay? Yeah, they cap after, is it 36,000 miles? Yeah. 30,000 miles, there are no more oil changes available under their maintenance. So we're on the hook for that.
Yeah, so that almost looked like 5 vehicles.
Mhm.
But we're still paying the maintenance fee.
Yeah, we still pay the maintenance fee, yet we pay for our own oil changes now. So the goal obviously is at the end of year 30,000, we trade the truck in, we get a new one. As you can see, that's not happening.
Right.
So, but that kind of goes in line like with the question you asked, is it being managed? We probably could, I don't know, like be doing better or they could be doing better. I'm not sure, but as it stands right now, it doesn't look like it's in a very user-friendly place for the city of Navasota.
If you own them, there's gonna need to be even more focus and more management from the city.
Right.
Right? I mean, if we're
Which, like Robert said, I think the goal is to evolve that to grow the maintenance services, to be able to manage more and more vehicles. If we're talking about, 10 brand new vehicles coming in and we're doing oil changes and general tire rotation on brand new vehicles, that's manageable for us in current state. When we get to 60 vehicles, that's a different conversation. But we want to grow that department to be able to manage that as we get bigger.
What's the status of the facility where you would repair or fix? Because I feel like that there's lots of issues with this maintenance building over here. So that means that we're looking, if we do change, then we're gonna have to potentially look at new equipment, new facilities, new something, another. Is that something that we've thought about?
Yeah, that's a part of even the discussion that we had at the strategic planning retreat was, about facility, long-term facility planning and making sure, and we've got, we do have a repair bay there. We do have funding in this year's budget to add a vehicle lift, so they can get under them, do the oil changes and those kind of things. But the reality is if there's more than just vehicle maintenance, there's probably some attention that's going to be needed to our public works and our maintenance facilities in the long run.
Would there be, or would it even be practical, possibility of working with NISD and their auto maintenance or mechanics program? That some of these kids, I mean, they could, minor things I'm talking, oil changes, tire rotation.
Certainly a
stuff.
possibility.
I mean,
We could certainly
as a
talk to them and see
partnership
what those are. We
to
could
get
even,
them the kids credit
yep.
or something that would help. If we don't have the whole staff to do it, that we could work a partnership with them.
That was a thought that I had, was also setting up some kind of internship program over the summer for those students to be able to come and work at our shop, or if they wanted to allow us to have facilities used on their end, we could drop trucks off for service, do things along those lines. That was the idea that we had to.
Possibly get those kids to where they're
City
working in
employees.
it, they graduate, they've worked in it, they come to work.
We're on the same page there.
Mhm.
One quick question, on option one, on the, on the second page. Well, you said it was proposed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just gonna ask about the 2026 Toyota Camry.
So that would be the replacement for the 2008 Ford Taurus that IT is currently using. He travels around town to different buildings to make sure that the facilities are taken care of. It is by far it's the second oldest vehicle we have in the fleet. It is working. It currently isn't labeled for the city of Navasota. That's probably a good thing. But it does work. It does make it around town. But the idea was to replace it with a more reliable vehicle that would last for a very long time, like that Ford Taurus has. That way, it's probably a vehicle we would keep for 10, 15 years for the very limited use it would be using. And specifically, that vehicle could also be used for commuting situations, conferences, things like that, because it gets 35 miles to the gallon, and it's a hybrid. So
Where's the old Blues Expedition at?
it is at the airport currently, and so that vehicle.
Right?
Yeah, so that vehicle is actually on this list to be auctioned off. We currently have a truck that we have at the animal shelter that is a 4-cylinder. The bed has been replaced with a work bed, right? So one of the vehicles we propose to replace here would take the place of that truck. We would put the bed of that truck back onto that truck and put that at the airport as our courtesy vehicle. It's an extended cab truck that could be easily replaced, could easily replace the Expedition that's at the airport. And we could get it. Yeah, it has a brand new engine in it because for some reason they sold us a 4-cylinder when they should not have, and we had to replace the engine because the 4-cylinder couldn't handle what animal shelter was doing with it. So the goal would be to take that Expedition, auction it, put that truck as a replacement vehicle for courtesy, which should be just fine for what they need at the airport, and then get a new truck for the animal shelter that can handle the workload that the animal shelter needs.
I think it's a pretty good idea trying to bring it, buying our own vehicles, because we can replace them as needed and not every 4 to 5 years. And
We have the equity in it.
yeah,
In a leasing, you never own it.
right. And
We have good access to auctions. I mean, I'm assuming. Yeah. Probably being with Houston and Bryan College Station areas, I guess, makes it better if you got kind of a metro area in the mix.
And then at that time, if we buy our own vehicles, so many per year, we can determine whether this vehicle needs to be replaced or not, and just keep moving forward.
Very similar to the maintenance service plan that I want to do for facilities. I want to prepare the same thing for the vehicles, so we know essentially how many years on average we want to keep them, depending on which department they're in, how many miles we want to put on them, tire road changes, all those things. We can start tracking those things a lot more in-house, and really come up with a game plan of how much vehicles should cost every year, so we can kind of extrapolate that out as we grow as well.
What do you think, Jay? Which way do you think is the best route?
I don't think we should be leasing anything. I think we should own what we have, because it just, to me, it gives us so much more control and it gives us so much more ability to be flexible with those vehicles a lot more as well. So I think it should all be done in-house, and I think we should help bring all those vehicles back in, and we should expand our maintenance services operations to be able to handle the extra workload that goes in.
And the shop is gonna need some tender loving care whether
The
we
shop,
go.
the shop will
change
be
it or
getting
not.
TLC as much as I can possibly afford to do this year. And then we will also be, we're talking about how we can expand those operations, either in that shop or somewhere else if we can do it down the road. So I think that's the long-term goal, is to make that shop much more advantageous for the city.
Mayor and Council, I did want to also just offer, before we got off of this topic, we have been also, as we've been thinking about actually purchasing vehicles, as opposed to leasing them, we have been in contact with the GMs, up here of the Ford and Chevy dealership here. Both of them are owned by EAG now. And they are working through the process of getting put on the fleet, government fleet sales, so they can offer through the government contracting, and we could actually buy local and support our local businesses. Don't know if,
Every brand, so.
yeah, I don't know if they'll have it in place for this year's purchases, because that is a process that they have to go through. But we've been working closely with them, and they are interested in doing that. And even if they don't sell them to us, we likely would use them for any warranty kind of thing, because they're close and we can go in there and take the vehicles in for warranty items and recalls. But hopefully in the long run, we get them set up as government fleet sales, and we can buy directly through them on the government contracts.
Jay, is the Suburban part of this, or is it separate?
His is an emergency vehicle, so it was part of the one that's budgeted in this year's budget, aside from the enterprise.
I will be going ahead with a kind of a 5-year plan as far as the vehicles are concerned, and putting together similar breakdowns of, what we would project to replace next year, the following year, year after that. So we can kind of stretch this out over time instead of doing it all at one time, because I don't think we can stomach coming up with a couple $1 million to replace a bunch of vehicles. So.
Well, just so we can make sure that the staff has a good, I mean, I think we're hearing, haven't heard anyone say, no, stay with the lease completely. Are we okay coming back to you all? Are you all ready to just make whatever we buy this year, buy it on our dime and not add any vehicles to the lease?
How many vehicles are we buying this year? Or leasing?
It looks like this proposal, option 1 would be the one that would do that, and it's 12, right? 11?
11.
11.
Yep. It's the very last one that's on there.
Getting them from Enterprise. So Enterprise's proposal was 17 vehicles, all on the Enterprise lease.
We're adding 2 extra ones that weren't on there before. If you look at the bottom, the last page, there are 2 vehicles that we wanted to add to the option 3. The last 2 vehicles are not a swap. That's 2 brand new vehicles being added to the fleet through Enterprise. Those are calculated in on the 11 that we were talking about, buying outright for ourselves.
Why would the janitor need a double cab?
So actually we are looking at a crew cab, and the only reason is there are times when they have to go from this building to that building, and there is equipment they have to take. On a rainy day, that is not a good idea to try to put them into a single cab truck to go back and forth. The reason why we were sticking with a small truck like a Canyon or a Colorado is because they do have to do trash sometimes at PD, and those trash bags, if we're talking about putting them into a van or some kind of work van, if they break, there are problems with that. So that's why we kept the bed of the truck, but also gave them a crew cab. That way they could put equipment and stuff in that back seat if they need to on a rainy day. But we looked at doing a smaller truck, Canyon or Colorado as an option.
Okay, not
instead of
like a
full size.
F-250 or
No,
something like
right.
that.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, if it were me, I would go to purchasing versus leasing. That's fine.
Well, our intent, there's nothing on tonight's agenda, so we didn't
Right.
want you to have to make a decision tonight. We just wanted to get some guidance, and we're gonna bring back a proposal. It sounds like we're gonna bring back one that would include a budget amendment to buy the vehicles this year, and then backfill with whatever we can get from those vehicles from either enterprise auctioning them or us auctioning them. We'll backfill whatever we can into the fund balance, but we'll start that process. And then ideally next year, we will have this discussion during the budget process, and we will include the funds as a part of the budget process.
And will any needed attached equipment be handled the same way that we've been doing it before, where we kind of are the ones that direct
So,
that?
yeah,
Correct.
on the list, go to option 1, page 2. So each one of these vehicle prices factor in the upgrades that need to be made to this truck with the service beds and all the things that are on there. That price reflects the upgrades that are going to be done to those trucks. We added those features in whenever we were quoting them out. So that price is pretty close to what we believe it should cost us to outfit these vehicles.
I was kind of talking about the logistics side of it. That
So
be something that we know what we want, I mean, and it would
Correct.
be.
We'll still do the upfitting ourselves.
yeah, especially when it
Just like
comes
we
to
have.
PD and the public safety
yeah.
vehicles, yeah. But for instance, like that last line item there, that 3,500 crew cab, 2-wheel drive, the service body and lift gate, the service body and lift gate will already be installed on that truck when we receive it.
Sure. Yeah, I was just, want to make sure that the equipment didn't get lost in the
Yes, sir.
transition.
Yep.
So now, Jay, what you're saying is that once we go out and buy these vehicles, our old ones are just not gonna sit up and collect dust or anything. We're all gonna get rid of them.
That's what that first page on option 1 is for. We want to immediately put them up for auction.
And
Once
can use
we
those
stock,
funds toward the new purchase.
then we can put that towards the new purchase. So if we can
Is
get
it,
roughly $100,000 for all those vehicles with the buyback and with us selling them, then we'll put that straight towards the new vehicle purchase.
because with the lease, you're at the mercy of Enterprise as to when they sell.
But, yeah.
I mean, no order. We'll get for the seller.
Mhm.
I mean, no really. It's A, B, or C, you, the first time they want to come to the, and they sell it, and once they sell it, you know.
My final question here is, in buying these new trucks and everything, do we go out for bids for them or
We would probably buy them through one of the government contracts, HGAC, Buy Board, one of the co-op tips, whichever co-op we can get the best pricing from. And I think we're already reaching out to a couple different dealerships, and like I said, working with the local dealerships here to try to get them set up. And we will give them a chance to give us a price that matches the government contracting prices. The reality is, if they're not set up through the manufacturer as a government dealer, they just can't compete. It's hard for them to compete at that level. And so likely, years to come, they'll be set up for that. Just don't know that they're going to get it done in the next couple months and be ready for an order this year.
Yeah, I was just thinking because both of the dealerships here are over in Brenham also. And I think the school district did some stuff with them, and they may have something set up over in that, since
Right.
it's owned by the same people.
And if it was warranty,
Certainly
or
ask.
if vehicles were in warranty, we were using local dealerships,
Correct.
I assume? Okay.
And we still would do that, right? So
Yeah.
if we bought a Chevy from whatever dealership we got it from, we would still take it here for warranty repair work.
Yeah.
There's no reason to drive it across.
Yeah.
So
What's the difference between option 1 and option 2?
option 2 would be, we just give back what we buy. We basically sell back the 2017s and we get whatever money we can with those, and we just replace those 3 vehicles. So we're not talking about all the old vehicles that we own. We would still hang on to them and use them for whatever we want to do. It's essentially just a lighter number, still keeping the ones that we own in our fleet. So the 2008s, the 2014s, the 2004s, hanging on to those vehicles and using them until they, drive them on the ground or fall apart or whatever. we
They're
want.
already there.
Yeah, I mean, they're already at that point where they're old. I just put option 2 on there just to say, if we just want to do the lease vehicles, this is what it would look like. This is how much it would cost.
Good.
I think so.
You have direction on?
We'll bring it back to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.